Hi there, my name is Jessica Crow, and I am the founder of Apogy, which is a change management, training, coaching, and consulting firm. And this is the Change Leader Speaker Series. And I have here today Tessa Vlaanderen. She was a part of Apogy's leadership development program, meaning she went through the training and she also got coaching. So I got a chance to work with her and was extremely inspired, not only by her and who she is, but also the really important work that she's doing. So Tessa, do you mind just sharing with our audience a little bit about yourself and the work that you're focused on and that you've been passionate about for so long?
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, it's been really great to work with you as well. So, I'm a circular economy lead at Dillon Consulting, and currently working with clients as well as with my colleagues to apply circular economy approaches in their projects and the work in what it is they're doing. And so we're both working with public and private sector clients. So they have very different asks, but ultimately it's about that same vision, which is moving towards a circular economy. So what a circular economy really is, it's if you consider that our current economy is basically based on all the stuff, all the matter, all the products that we have that are really just extracted from the ground. We produce these materials, we use them, and we dispose of them. It's a very linear model, they call it. And ultimately, there is an end to that, right? It's not sustainable over time. We see more and more that there is environmental disadvantages. That is an understatement, I think. Yeah. I think climate change is definitely a strong concern for most people these days. But so are price volatility of supply in supply chains, supply reliability. There is issues with costs of waste as well in some very densely populated areas. Where are you going to continue to put all that stuff? Right. So it's time for a different approach where you use the materials and the products that you already have in your economy, and that's referred to as a circular economy.
Yeah. And when we first started working together, I mean, you gave me a couple of examples of where this exists today. Do you mind sharing that just for people who are just now learning about circular economy through this conversation, an example of where this is, if they were to think about in their own hometown where they might see this happening already, just to kind of create an example for them?
Well, repair and maintenance is very common and very well-known approach, whether it's your shoes that you're repairing or the screen on your phone. It all extends the lifetime of the products that you have, and at the same time it creates jobs in your town. That's exactly what a circular economy is. It can get from there to much more industrial scale, or more automated processes that are more referred to as remanufacturing, which is very common these days when it comes in the automotive industry for car parts, for example. And if you look at very heavy machinery, it's already well established, or in the aerospace industry. Very well established practices in the home situation. But even sharing, having a common asset that you're sharing with your neighbors, or swapping clothes, or things like that, definitely all fall under circular economy.
Yeah, that's super helpful to have those examples, because I think it's more tangible in many ways than we're even realizing. And so when you and I started working with together, you had this idea of how do we extend this to other industries and other ways of working and being. And you've sort of started that process within Dillon Consulting, but also much more broadly. You're a part of a network that extends. Is it international, or the group where you're part of the steering committee? Is that something that is within?
Oh, that's an international initiative. So last Tuesday, I was just part of an event. Just honored to moderate it. It's the Dutch-Canadian Circular Alliance, where it's really around creating that international cooperation, where in Europe they may be a little bit more advanced because the regulations and the urgency had just been a little bit ahead of where we are in Canada, or even in the US. And so some of the practices or ideas that are developed there are very interesting and inspiring for us, while at the same time, they may struggle to scale it in the Netherlands, where this may be more feasible in North America. So
yeah, with more people focused on
and
it.
that was specific to the built environment. So, but it can apply to anything. Plastics is very top of mind in Canada, in many policy agendas, but also for the chemical industry, for example. So there's very much about recycled content, and you have this bottle, you dispose of it, but how do we create another bottle of it?
Right.
Right now, we do make textiles with recycled content, but also it's small, it's emerging. But how do you eventually do that at scale so that you can stop the environmental harm associated with it?
And as you've gone, as you've applied the lens of change management and change leadership to your own process within the firm that you're working at, and how to think about doing what you just described at scale or in different areas, what have been some of the biggest, opportunities, and then also some of the biggest barriers to advancing, this idea, because it's a big, meaningful, impactful at a global scale change. If we, as all the humans on earth were able to get this right, it'd be a big, big, powerful, positive thing for humanity. What have been for you personally, as you've been moving forward with your ideas and your vision for circular economy with your colleagues, for example? What have been the opportunities and maybe some of the challenges you faced as a change leader in this space?
One of the biggest challenges is that what you're selling, it's very much a vision. It's an idea,
right?
And yes, we know that repair and maintenance and recycled content are all elements of that, but there is a reason we're not doing it today. And it's because it may not be economically feasible, or there may be regulations in place that are not doing it. So there are market forces at play that basically have this status quo and kind of maintain that status quo.
Right.
So when I talk to most people, actually, whether it's colleagues or clients, people love the idea, they're kind of sold on the urgency as well. It's just that the very next step is, yes, but it's not possible.
Right.
Because either my clients don't want it, or for my constituency, there's other things that are more important, or we have all these priorities, and really, this is not the top of the pile. Or it's just simply like, where do we get started?
Right. That
specifically for me, yeah. I get the idea, but what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's the start of the conversation. Yeah. Very, very much. It's always what have you already done? And in most cases, people have actual examples of work or actions they have taken already. And it's like, okay, but what were the circumstances of that? And how do we recreate these circumstances? Or if there are any barriers in place, are there
how do you overcome them? Yeah.
How do you overcome them? Exactly. But in some cases, that also requires involving other stakeholders. And how do you reach these other stakeholders? And so we are, I think internally specifically, Dillon is strong on the engineering and environmental management services, and on the engineering side, the response very much is, well, we just do whatever is asked in these RFPs, in these requests for proposals. So, we ultimately can't decide what our client wants. It's like, right. Yes and no, but the client, if you talk to the municipalities that are issuing these RFPs, they say, well, but we can't ask what the market can't give. We have to put out we have to make it competitive.
Yeah.
So if we don't know that a certain innovation is available out there, we can't ask for it. So it's about starting that conversation with those clients at an early stage. And you can do that through either adding something in your proposal that sometimes even just gives a signal to the client. Hey, we are thinking about this. We have solutions out there.
Right.
We know how to better integrate this in our way of working. Sometimes it's just about considering it at the right time and kind of weaving it into your practices. And if you can signal to clients that you're ready to make that move, maybe they're also going to start asking for it. So there's a lot of things that you can do and that my colleagues can do or that our clients can do. But it's really about identifying those very tangible steps that are within their sphere of influence and within their own world, and not this very big idea that they love, and it's important to keep it as a sort of, North Star.
Anchor,
But it's not something that you can directly apply in your own work.
Which is why I think it's been so much fun to work with you, work through this process, because often, when it comes to change management, leading change, the change is defined. It's here's what it is. How do we manage the impacts of whatever this change is on people, on our communities? And in your case, the change is a vision, and it's working with your stakeholders to define, well, what does this look like? And how could this potentially play out? And what do we need to be thinking about? So you're defining the solution as you go through the process, not necessarily defining the further stream impacts. And you are in many ways too, but it's been really neat to be a part of your conversation and working with you, because you're sort of building the ship as you are sailing, which is really amazing to watch, and leveraging the tools that you have, like thinking through, who are my key stakeholders? What do people need to know? What are examples of where this exists already? And how could we apply that to this thinking? And kind of peeling back the layers of the onion, sort of getting to, something that's more concrete that then you can eventually apply, test out, and really, pressure test the idea. But
that's actually also been one of the things that I have kind of discovered through our journey together, is kind of reconciling the fact that the change is not very well defined. But then managing also expectations and being very honest and open about it is like, yes, we want to drive change. We don't know exactly what the benefit is going to be. We can't quantify it. And we can also not exactly quantify what it is we need to undergo that change. But then if you chop that up in smaller pieces, we can control each and every one of those pieces. And then we accept it's going to be an iterative process. And we know it's going to be, and that's how we're going to set up our internal management system to accommodate that iterative process. And ultimately, it's going to become clearer as we move along. And I think that has given me the tools to better navigate the insecurity that you would also get from management, right? It's like, well, why would we allocate resources for this? And we see that internally, our clients experience exactly the same thing. This is very common. And it's been very helpful for me to get a little bit of a mental framework about how to work on these tests.
So you can have that stamina and the persistence and your perseverance to carry you through those ebbs and flows. Because I know, in any change, whether it's defined or not, there's going to be those moments where you feel like you're going 2 steps forward and then 1 step back because questions come up. But I'm really glad that you have that perspective, because the work you're doing is so important and so exciting too. I have no doubt that you're going to continue to advance this within your organization and more broadly, at a global level, because of kind of the connections that you have and the passion that you have for the work that you're doing. We were talking here too. I've got just a question that I've written down, and just talking about transformational change being a marathon and not a sprint. So what advice would you give to someone who is pioneering a change, pioneering a new way forward with all of the, everything that you've learned and the perspective that you have now? What advice would you give to somebody who's in your shoes, whether or not they're charting the path for a circular economy or something bold and new? What could you tell them to give them a little bit of reassurance, or maybe that extra, support to keep going?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had lots of discussions around it's marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And it's extremely important to have that in mind when you start.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tempting to go for the big idea and you need to build up momentum, right? You need to build up enthusiasm yourself and with the people that you want to engage with on that journey. But at the same time, it's finding that balance with not creating expectations that you can't meet, mm-hmm. or time, whether it's about impact or timelines, or so finding that balance so that you are set up for the long run, mm-hmm. and so that would be one. The other thing is sometimes I feel a little bit daunted, mm-hmm. by how big the gap is. It's like, this is the vision, this is where we are today, and it seems overwhelming how far we have to go and how high the urgency is. Like, it should all happen basically, well, it should have happened yesterday, right? So you're already feeling like you're kind of trying to catch up, and so you feel in a hurry, right, to really realize all these huge ideas. And then comes the human aspect about, hey, we need to manage change. We're all individuals. We all need we have certain needs to be able to change. We mm-hmm. can't expect to change from one day to the next.
Right.
And that's a very important reality, I think, that we need to keep front and center in, mm-hmm. in the work we do, that it doesn't turn into sort of resentment. And disappointment in each other, and disappointment in ourselves as people, that we have somehow failed, or that we are failing even though we really try. Like, that's the recipe for burnout. And it's also missing that great opportunity of how amazing people can be when they really join their minds together, when you do give them what they need and they do change, and they do so in a joint direction. Working towards a shared vision. When they do, they can do such amazing things in so little time, that I think putting, again, that human element front and center in what you're driving towards is really important.
That is such great advice. I think, there's so many external and internal signals telling us we need to have results immediately for everything that we're doing, working on, producing, but keeping that in mind and advocating for that human side, and the reality that meaningful change takes time, transformational change takes time. But to your point, it's like all these little things start to come together, and then suddenly you have this critical mass, and then your momentum, what was steps becomes leaps. And then, you look back and you're like, wow, did that really just happen like that? Because you've made so much progress. Tessa, where can people learn more about the work that you're doing, how to get in touch with you or Dillon Consulting? I mean, where can we find out more?
Well, finding out more about circular economy in general, and that I would definitely recommend the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have an amazing website. It's very interactive. You can find all kinds of amazing reports and information about circular economy, training materials, videos, like all kinds of things. So really, when it comes to thought leadership in that space, turn to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Dillon Consulting, reaching out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. That's actually one of the platforms I use most.
Great.
Tessa Vlaanderen, I guess the spelling of my name would be the harder part. But I'm sure if you Google Tessa Vlaanderen.
Yes, we'll be able to add that to the show notes, we'll say, and just they can reach out to you on LinkedIn. Fantastic. I'll put a link to your profile that way, or I'll at you. I think that's how it works, and then they can follow the work that you're doing that way on LinkedIn. And if they have questions, or hopefully there's someone who is watching this video and they're thinking, you know what, I want to see how this could work with, and there'd be a potential client, right? Like, I want to see how this could work. I'm going to reach out to Tessa and Dillon and be one of those early adopters who will end up being a change influencer right alongside you and Dillon and really making waves here. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your enthusiasm and passion with Apogy's community, with my community. You are doing such great work, such important work. And I just want to say thank you for that. And it was just such an honor to work with you. But thanks for making time to be a part of this video interview as well. Thank you so much.
Well, and just really thank you so much for having helped me, because it's and setting me up for the long run, for the marathon.
Yes,
really
absolutely.
Feel much better equipped now. So yeah, thank you as well.
It was an honor. Thanks, Tessa.
All right.